You are Locked On Coogs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
But before we get too far, I did mention that today's show was brought to you by Game Time. And as you know, I don't know if you're going to get a chance to attend an NFL playoff game, if you got to go to one when the Texans were in town or anything like that. But it's an experience unlike any other. The energy, the excitement, the connection with other fans are all unmatched. It's like an all-stakes kind of thing. I remember the thrill of seeing the Texans win a playoff game, like early on. The Texans, it's a big deal, right? And it's a big deal to be there in person. And if I were going to get tickets, go in person, I'd be going to Game Time. This year, Game Time makes it even easier to create those unforgettable moments with their new feature, Game Time Picks. It filters out the fluff and shows you only the best deals on great seats so you can focus on what matters, being there. I use Game Time Picks to grab tickets from my brother for a holiday gift. I thought it was a great idea to give him experience, and I went on and found great tickets, great seats. Got to see what the view is going to be like from those seats, and the price was all in. Everything was there. There was no surprises in that pricing. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets like I did with Game Time, and download Game Time app today. Create an account, use code Locked On College. That's $20 off your first purchase with code Locked On College. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code Locked On College. LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. What time is it? It's Game Time. Parker Andrews, the Locked On Coogs here, trying to break down and pull out what we can from Houston's beatdown of Utah, 70-36. And Houston really kind of ran away this one early. Felt like a snooze fest in the second half for parts of it. Houston put the backups in for large stretches of that second half. But there was an exciting moment at halftime. Before we get to talking about what comes next for Houston with Kansas and future schedules and things like that, because we got more to talk about with all that as well. The big halftime announcement in this one was that Houston will be donning these blue uniforms later. I guess I would say later this month, but really the start of the next month on February 1st against Texas Tech at home. That game is like an earlier tip. It's like a 5 o'clock tip in the Fertitta Center. Houston's going to come out in these Houston blue uniforms. Kind of a take on the same way that the football team did against Baylor. It sounds like they're going to be wearing Houston blue like a game a year against an in-state rival kind of thing. Texas Tech being a Saturday game, I think makes that much more appealing in that sense. Baylor is afterwards too. I think they kind of wanted to make sure they got it in sooner rather than later. It's a merch kind of thing, I'm sure, want to kind of maximize that deal. I will say that I know that the guys in the program are a little superstitious. That's why, like, if they won in black with Houston on their chest, they're going to wear black with Houston on their chest until they don't while they're on the road. If they win with Cougars on their chest at home, they're going to wear white with Cougars on their chest until they don't win at home. Sampson's the same way about his polos. If they beat Texas Tech in blue, I bet there will be a push, and not that they have any say in it, but I bet there would be a push to wear it again after that. That all being said, uniforms themselves, we've done Houston blue stuff before. You can go check out the catalog, but it ties back to well before. I mean, the Oilers wore blue for Houston, right? Not the other way around. It's a Houston color. It's the Houston flag. It's the Houston police cars from back in the day. It's a Houston thing. It's really, really cool to see them in it. I'm excited to see them in it as well. And honestly, I'm excited to see the kicks there. If you're on YouTube, you see the kicks on the screen. The three guys in the picture, Manuel Sharp, Jawan Roberts, and Mother Suzanne, are all wearing Legend 11 blues, kind of a very collectible kind of Jordan 11 that's mostly white, and it's got a little light blue Jumpman. That's not the biggest news of the future. Obviously, for Houston, the big news of the future is Kansas this weekend. Kansas kind of extended a lead. They're up double digits now over TCU in Fort Worth. Obviously, we're not going to quite get to the end of that one before this episode is over. There are 4 minutes left in the game, though. They're up 10. They should win. And so Kansas is going to be going back home 14-4. Houston will be, I believe it's 15-3. Like right there. I'm right there. I think I'm right there. And these are two of the top 3 teams in the conference. And you mix in Iowa State. I think Iowa State's better than Kansas for what it's worth. But the biggest deal about going to Kansas this weekend is that we understand after watching it last year, Kansas is a really, really challenging place to play. It almost doesn't matter how good or bad teams are. Kansas has lost a game at home. I believe it was earlier this year. Pulling up to double check that I'm right there. But and I think that yeah, they did. They lost to West Virginia. There you go. Boom. I think that honestly, there's kind of starting to be some like weaknesses in the armor, some holes in the wall, some stuff starting to fall apart there as far as the like lore of it all. But I also think that, honestly, as the conference has gotten bigger, they trimmed some fat in a basketball sense and added a program like Houston. I don't know that everyone else in America would see Kansas as a program that's kind of on the back end of something or kind of fallen off from when they were a few years ago or whatever, because truthfully, not every program is Houston. Right now, I'm not saying it's not going to go up there and be a dogfight. I think it is, but I'm not like scared of it like I think other programs might be. I think that that's kind of the next step, and consistently beating Kansas is kind of that next step in the like blue blood line and lineage here. We'll be breaking that down this week. So this is Thursday. I'll talk to Derek some about getting something out to record as a crossover so he can tell us a bit more about Kansas. I've been texting him some this week, but I was actually kind of focused on this Utah game. So we'll see what Derek says about the Jayhawks. If you remember last year when we played Kansas, I've got personal connections, big fan of KJ Adams. And so that's always hard to root against him in these 2 games a year. You got to do what you got to do. I love you, KJ. I hope you get a double-double and Houston wins by 35. That's what I hope happens. That's what I hope happens. Actually, I know more guys on that team this year than I did before, too. But anyway, it's all Coogs all the time. I'm not saying I want anything else to happen. I just think it's always interesting to watch that play out. Again, if my guys could score, but Houston still wins by like 30, that'd be fan-freaking-tastic. And frankly, for what it's worth, Houston is searching for that quad 1 win. The same curse that's happened twice now. They beat West Virginia at home so badly that West Virginia fell from 30th in the net to 32nd, and thus was no longer a quad 1 win, which is beating teams 1 through 30 at home. They over the weekend, they beat UCF so bad that UCF fell from 70th to 73rd in the net, winning on the road in the top 70 is a quad 1 win. So both those games have become quad 2s because it is flexible. Now, that is not to say that they can't move back in. The only thing that would matter would be where those teams finish at the end of the season in the net. It's just a fun thing to track. And frankly, for what it's worth, it's interesting to see how Houston beats up on people and watches them become lesser than in the eyes of others. Just another way to fly under the radar. Houston's 15-3 record. Those 3 losses continue to look better and better as we go on, by the way. Clearly a team that was gelling early in the season played a couple teams that are in the top part of the conversation here. And honestly, Houston was like, hovering around 500 when those 3 losses happened, and they've gotten all the way to 15-3, and other teams keep stacking L's. So we're talking about Houston and Kansas and getting ready for that game this weekend. If things pop off in football, if we get any big news there, obviously break down those kinds of things as well here at Locked On Cougs. So do me a favor, hit subscribe and hit the bell so you know we're live for the latest on the Houston Cougars each and every day. And if you're looking for a second listen, you're in the basketball kind of mood, Andy Isaac do a great job at Locked On College Basketball each day. I've started to, try and persuade them to talk about the Cougs and Iowa State more. So we'll see how those kinds of things go. Go check them out as well. Locked On Cougs is primary of the Locked On Podcast Network. That means your team every day, especially when they win 70-36 over someone like Utah. Go Cougs.